And welcome back to the Always Be Building Show, sponsored by Dynasty Football Factory Network. I'm Stephen Chalmers, joined as always by my partner on the right side of the screen, Mr. Ryan Odell. Dell, say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Last time we got into a new segment on the show. We started to do some of these buys last week, 2 days ago. We covered quarterbacks. We're going to keep this rolling. We're going to get 2 in for this week. For you guys out there tonight, it's running backs. This is Steven's specialty, so I'll let him kick things off over there.
Yeah, before we get started, as always, just want to talk about Dynasty Football Factory Network for 1 second. So the annual or the subscription that we offer here, $1.67 monthly, $19.99 annually, very cheap for all the content that you're going to get. Rookie Guide is out there. If you haven't done your rookie drafts, I'm sure most of you have, but just in case there's a chance you didn't, it's out there. Devi, Best Ball, Redraft. Ours truly over here on the Dynasty side. So we're very excited to be a part of this group, and we're very excited to continue to move forward for the growth of our YouTube. So anything you ever see, we just posted another video on Monday, like Ryan said. If you like the content, like, comment, most importantly, subscribe. We're still reaching for that 500 subscriber mark. It's a huge number for us. We're at 482 right now, so trying to keep climbing. And tonight we are going to talk running backs, my specialty. So the rookie draft just happened, and you think about the running backs that have gauged their way into our top 10 for our rankings. Gene T, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, Quinshawn Jukins, with a couple just outside of the top 10, Caleb Johnson and RJ Harvey. It's a huge number of running backs that are set to take over the scene.
Yep.
Which means there's always value to be had at the position. Always value to be had. The first person I'm going to start off with is number 14 via Keep Trade Cut. Again, we use this as a universal ranking system for the community. We do not use this as a trade calculator or anything like that. Josh Jacobs. Running back 14, Josh Jacobs. So a running back who just turned 27 years old, going into his 7th year of service in the NFL. A running back who we just saw finish as a top 5 running back. In a Matt LaFleur system where running backs always thrive.
Yep.
First half of the year, Jordan Love was pass first as opposed to run first. And it showed in Jordan Love's touchdown to interception ratio, overall just turnovers, and the ability to win games. The Packers at one point were out of contention for the NFC North title, but they played their way into a playoff game, and they rode the coattails of Josh Jacobs. A lot of injuries to their wide receiver room. Overall, their wide receivers were disappointing to say the least, and it led to a heavy workload. 300 carries, 36 receptions, monster season.
Yeah.
So you say, look at the efficiency. He averaged 4.2 yards per carry. Okay. There's 2 seasons in which Josh Jacobs averaged over 4.5 yards per carry. Josh Jacobs is the Melvin Gordon archetype where it's volume over efficiency. But guess what? Josh Jacobs scores fantasy points.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think he's a great value here. I think I was buying him a little bit last year with the small dip, kind of a bad season. But I think even after this great season, he finished in the top 8, I think.
Number 5 on the RB player rating.
Number 5, finished in the top 5. I mean, I think he's still a buy at the value you're getting him at right now. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, for the most part, these buys that we're going to cover tonight are all for contenders. Like, if you're trying to rebuild, probably isn't the episode for you. But if you're trying to go win a championship, Josh Jacobs is definitely one of those guys you can go add for semi-cheap. I think right now he's going for late 2025 first. So, I mean, you can look at it like you can argue that, yeah, RJ Harvey would probably be nice there, or Caleb Johnson would be nice there, but we know Josh Jacobs is Josh Jacobs, right? He's probably going to get you 2 seasons inside the top 10 as long as he stays healthy. Compared to these rookies you're taking a shot on, it's like, yeah, they could hit that mark, but you never know with these prospects. I'd probably lean between the two of those 2 guys. I think I'd just rather take a shot at Josh Jacobs and continue the reign.
Yeah. So when we talk about rookie drafts, I found the tier break for me in this class is where I finally get out of like where I have to own a pick is after the 1-7. The 1-8 is where things get really mushed together in a range where I don't mind trading out of. And in Dynasty Startups, Josh Jacobs is going in the 6th round.
Love that too.
Yeah. On top of that, he's running back 14. On top of that, the running back 14 mix that has, you'll see 20 wide receivers go in front of Josh Jacobs. You'll see the number of tight ends, I want to say, is 6.
With Tyler Warren in the mix.
Yeah, with Tyler Warren and Loveland in the mix. Just depends on how they view, especially if you play tight end premium, you might see 8 tight ends go ahead of Josh Jacobs, where he sneaks into the 7th round of startups. Overall trade value is anywhere from when that tier break starts, anywhere like Ryan said, you could have him for a late first, 1-9, 110, and people are willing to go off Josh Jacobs. Now, he has this season locked in. He will be a Green Bay Packer this year. He has an opt-out next year. But if he plays like this, the 2024 Josh Jacobs, and if he repeats another top 10 season of the position and he's healthy, I don't think there's any way he's going to play his way out of Green Bay.
No. Yeah. I don't think so either. And I don't think, like, a lot of these Dynasty guys, people are high on Marshawn Lloyd. I don't see him anymore as a backup. I don't think he's going to take significant touches away from Josh Jacobs. And he's definitely not a threat to kick Josh Jacobs out of town. So I'm all in on Josh Jacobs as a buy.
Right. So last thing I want to talk about is overall offense. Green Bay's offense, killer down the second half of the stretch. They look great. Top of Jordan Love's improved touchdown interception ratio. Josh Jacobs was top 5 in the position at touchdowns, overall touches, and touches inside the 5-yard line, which is where you win or lose a fantasy week is when your running backs get in the end zone. Yeah, it's nice for them to pitch in 4 to 5 catches. I doubt you see the 50 reception totals like you saw 2 years in Oakland. I don't think you'll get that. I think you're going to get anywhere from 35 to 40 catches, but you're going to get a lot of touchdown opportunities, and that's just how you win. That's how you win fantasy weeks. It's very simple. Total touches, absolutely. Fantasy weeks.
Yep. Next up, going over to Carolina. I'm going to talk a little bit of Chuba Hubbard. Just signed in season last year, I think surprised most of us as fantasy heads with Jonathan Brooks coming in that rookie class. We thought that he was going to be the guy there, but injuries have kind of locked him up. And it gave a chance to prove to the Panthers that Hubbard could be their guy. And he proved that point, got the 3-year contract. He's locked in there.
4 years.
4
for 33.
4 years, even better. 4-year contract. It's all 4 guaranteed, whatever. But yeah, just like this ability to have in him. And on top of that, they went through this whole offseason, this loaded running back class Steven just referenced in the top of the show. And they passed on all of them in favor to hold Chubbard in that spot. Only acquisition they had this offseason that is kind of significant is Rico Dowdle. But you look at him in the Cowboys, he rushed for over 1,000 yards, but only scored 2 touchdowns. Not great in the red zone. That's where Hubbard shined, was in the red zone last year. I think he's still going to get these touchdowns. He got 10 last year. He was in a plus offense at the end of last season, and they add Ted McMillan as a solid receiver for Bryce Young. I think Chuba might be not a bad buy down the stretch here.
No, I like Chuba. I liked him all the way back to Oklahoma State. Just a guy who has good tools, not great. He thrives in what he does. So we talk about, he's got multiple years of over 4.7 yards per carry in the league. He's got 2 years where he doesn't. So it's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation here. Like, what are we going to get from Chuba Hubbard this season? But we talk about Bryce Young's improved play down the stretch last year. We talked about Dave Canales finding his QB to where he didn't have to waste a first-round pick on another QB. He goes and gets another offensive weapon. They add Hunter Renfrow, who I've been watching a lot of their camp, and he looks really good as well. Looks explosive. Adding Hunter Renfrow and Ted McMillan on top of still bringing in a veteran like Adam Thielen, you address the tight end position with Jatavian Sanders last year. You improve the offensive line drastically. It's all a recipe for success, right? the more loaded talent scheme and situation you have around you, the easier it is for you to do your job.
Yeah.
Not saying this is a stellar team by any means. They're going to be in a lot of negative game scripts, but guess what? Chuba Hubbard is also a true 3-down back. He had over 40 catches last year. He's on the field regardless, whether the Panthers are winning or losing. He's making an impact in games. The only thing that you and I talked about previously with Rico Dowdle was his ability to be a 1,000-yard rusher in the NFL.
Right.
And I don't see the split getting anywhere past the 70-30, maybe 65-35 mark. But this is Chuba's backfield, and he finished running back 14 last year. I believe that's a pretty safe floor for Chuba. Top 15, top 16. It's a very safe floor for him. I mean, Aaron Jones did significantly less last year, and he was running back 16. On a point per game basis, he was just under the 16 points per game mark.
Yeah.
So
he missed 2 games. So
yeah, he did miss 2 games. He had the ankle injury down the stretch. So Chuba, great buy. He comes in at what, running back 24?
Somewhere in that range, yeah.
Right, running back 24. At this point, we were talking about Josh Jacobs as a 6th-round startup pick. We're talking about Chuba Hubbard in the 12th round.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to ignore the value that lies there. And last year, I bought Chuba Hubbard, and he was a 15th-round Dynasty startup pick. This is
3 rounds.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
he only increased 3 rounds on top of the fact of him finishing with back-to-back 300 fantasy point years. It's really hard to argue the notion here. 12th round is probably as safe as it gets.
Yeah. And you might be even dropping him as your like RB3 flex spot at that.
Yeah, he's consistently.
You can get him for cheap too.
He'll never be an RB2. He's a consistent flex play, especially when you have those leagues with deep flexes where you're running 2 to 3 flex spots on top of a super flex. There's no way Chuba Hubbard's not going to be in a lineup.
Yeah.
I guess it's up to me now. Well,
you up, big dog?
This is the easiest buy of all time. Running back 22. Let's go to Charm City. We talk about this every year. When is Father Time going to slow him down? Well, it wasn't in 2024. That's for sure. Yeah. At one point, we were talking about Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley were on a 2K yard pace, and then Derrick Henry had a 2-game stretch where he went under 100 yards. But in those games, he scored 5 touchdowns. So let's just talk about that. Derrick Henry, to you and I, is probably one of the greatest running backs that we've had the privilege of watching in our lifetime. I mean, we've seen some really good running backs in our lifetime, but Derrick Henry is right up there. He has, 7 consecutive seasons of 10 or more touchdowns? 7 exactly. He's top 10 all-time in rushing yards. He's top 10 all-time in rushing touchdowns. It doesn't stop. The volume doesn't stop. The dude is just a producer, a natural producer at the running back position. Yes, I know Father Time will eventually catch up to him, but at the running back 22 price, I'll pay it every day.
Yeah. What does everybody say about Derrick Henry? I mean, he's been that guy for so long. I think we talked about this earlier. He's the leading at active players, leading in rushing attempts, rushing yards, touchdowns, all the way down the line. I mean, he's just been an absolute monster. Every year, I think, as a Dynasty community since like 2022, after that 2K yard season, we were saying that, hey, he's going to start falling off year in, year out. It's the same conversation, and he's yet to slow down the pace. And listen, he's 29, so I don't know how many more seasons you're going to get out of Derrick Henry, but definitely one of those guys. If you just need that one push for a championship, he's worth it.
He's 31.
31, even worse. Jesus Lord, how God. You ran like that at 30 years old last year?
He's pretty special. So
I thought he was 29, turning 30 this season. He's turned already 31?
He's 31 in season.
Wow.
So so he already had another year left on his contract. But remember, he just signed a 2-year deal a couple days ago.
Wow, he's 31.
For $30 million. When you have a player as special as Derrick Henry, as long as the injuries don't happen, You put him with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, you put him in a running scheme in which they both can thrive and play off each other. It's probably the best 1-2 at the QB running back position that we've seen in quite some time when it comes to just a pure talent perspective. I mean, that's just what it is. There's no tail of the tape with this here. We talk about Mike Evans having a Hall of Fame jacket. Derrick Henry's got a Hall of Fame jacket, and he hasn't even stopped playing yet. He's still playing his best football at 31 years old. Talking about, again, an 11th to 12th round Dynasty startup pick here. You're talking about a second-round pick, guys.
Yeah.
A 2025 second-round pick. That's what you're talking about here.
It's rough out here.
It's rough. It's rough. It's really rough.
Well, it's actually easy. It's pretty easy to get him. All you have to do is find anybody that's trying to rebuild, and you can just pluck them off a roster for pretty
Right.
cheap.
Right. Anybody that owns Derrick Henry, though, is probably not rebuilding.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
That's the only thing that comes down to this, because this is one of those players, and I talk about Brady in this aspect as well. Brady was at that point where in his early 40s, he was still producing top 3 QB seasons, and teams just weren't willing to look past it, and they weren't willing to let him go. So maybe the value is a little inflated. For Derrick Henry, you might have to pay a absolute late first-round pick, which at that point I'm okay with, to overpay on this player. If you're a championship contender, you have to have Derrick Henry. That's just what it is.
True. All right. I kind of didn't want to go anything like too boring here, but sadly I have to get a little boring. I'm going over there, New Orleans. We're talking Alvin Kamara once again. Look, I get it. He just had a conversation about Derrick Henry, 31, whatever. I get it. These guys that were listening are a little bit older. Alvin Kamara, though, is actually 29. He is 29. I know I messed up on Derrick Henry. Kamara's 29. I think if you're a contender, none one of those guys you have to have on your team. I think after Sean Payton left, the big narrative with Alvin Kamara was, oh, he's never going to get back to those receiving numbers that he did when he had Drew Brees and Sean Payton. That's totally fair. He hasn't gotten back to those. But all that being said, in the last 2 seasons, he's had over 140 catches. So 70 a year is nothing to shake a stick at. Doesn't consistently hit that 1,000-yard mark, but between the touchdowns he can get and the receiving game, he's only finished outside of the top 15 running backs in 2 seasons, despite missing games almost every year. I mean, this is somebody who year in, year out is just knocking it out of the park for teams. And I think especially this year, the Saints are going to have to lean on him a little bit more despite his age, because the quarterback position is so murky. I think they're going to look for Kamara to kind of be this offense. And right now, I mean, he's priced in the same area as Cam Scatabo up over there as a rookie with the Giants. I think that middle second to go get Kamara and add that piece to your team is pretty solid. Like Steven said, you might have to inflate that a little bit, but even if you're paying an early second, or I'm okay with that for a Kamara who's model of consistency. Like I've said in previous shows, like that's something you got to have on your team. So I love guys that you can just plug and not have to worry about at all season.
Well, with how bad the Saints are, I'm not sure if Kamara will even be a Saint the whole season. You know what I mean? I really don't. But a running back and tight end are typically your QB's best friends, especially a young quarterback in the league. So we're looking at a QB room with Tyler Shaw and Spencer Rattler. It's going to be a really rough start for New Orleans. But again, Alvin Kamara is a 3-down back. Alvin Kamara is one of the best dual threat running backs to ever step foot in the game. Very Matt Forte-like game, has aged gracefully. Touches have never been there to the point where we're talking about an excessive workload. These last 2 years, he's had over 200 carries, and he's had 75 and 68 receptions, and it's been modest workload for Alvin Kamara down the stretch. But these are actually 2 of more of his better seasons than his early seasons. He was almost at 19 fantasy points per game last year. That finishes in the top 5 behind your Bijans, your Gibbs, your Barkleys, and your Derrick Henrys. it's really hard to argue the fact of how productive Alvin Kamara is on the field. He did only play 14 games last year. He did miss time just due to how bad the Saints were and just a nagging injury he had to deal with.
Yeah.
Cam Scatterbo or Alvin Kamara, I think that's a really easy choice for me.
Yeah, I mean, they're pressing the same spot on keep trade cut, which, I mean, listen, maybe not be my value, but that is a community-based thing where that's the reality of where guys are valuing Kamara at. And that's just what it is.
Yeah. Kamara, I have a lot of hate to Kamara. I never really thought – I did. I never really thought he was going to be that guy after Drew Brees and Sean Payton ditched town, but he's proved me wrong every single year. Every single year.
I think he's a great buy. Like I said, I hate being boring here, but I think he's just – and on top of him, he doesn't get a high workload. And when he is running the ball, he doesn't take any major hits. Like, yeah, he's going to have a nagging injury here and there, but I don't know. He's kind of preserved his body pretty well over time. He runs out of bounds.
You know what's crazy? From 2017 to now, he's never had less than 330 fantasy points scored in a season. That's ridiculous.
I mean, that's – yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive, man. That's pretty impressive.
I'm telling you, it's all those touchdowns and the receptions, dude. He's been carrying, like I said, doesn't hit that 1,000-yard mark, but doesn't need to be productive.
You know what else? He is a touchdown machine.
Yeah. I mean, he's that offense for the most part.
He just scores touchdowns. Okay. I want to talk about one guy, too. He survived the draft. Very, very big head coach, offensive play caller. Not sure how it's going to work out yet. Upgrade with Ben Johnson. I've heard the rumors that Nick Chubb's going to be a Chicago Bear. But as of now, you have Roshan Johnson in the backfield and Kyle Monagai out of Rutgers. DeAndre Swift, running back 32. So, I know that DeAndre Swift and Ben Johnson have been a coach running back tandem before. But the thing is like the games missed in his Detroit tenure just never led us to believe that it made me believe that he never reached his full potential. Because I believe when DeAndre Swift were to play 16 games in Detroit, that DeAndre Swift were a top 5 running back in the game. DeAndre Swift was a very special talent coming out of Georgia, and he produced on the field right away. Here we are now. We're talking about DeAndre Swift 5 years later, and they're back together. At running back 32, this is a guy who's never finished outside the running back 2 status.
Yeah.
And that's impressive how many games he's missed. That's very impressive. Offensive line upgrades, huge offensive line upgrades, drastic. Weapon upgrades. There's no way that you can just focus on one area of the field when it comes to the Chicago Bears. On top of a guy who's just a consistent threat out of the backfield, just like Alvin Kamara is. It might not be to that level, but we're talking about a guy who is a consistent pass catcher. You own DeAndre Swift in a couple leagues. I know I own DeAndre Swift in a couple leagues. Yeah. And I truly believe that DeAndre Swift can win you weeks this year. He can win you games.
I do think he's one of those situations where he might be like a quick replacement. He survived this class, which is surprising considering they were coveting Gene pretty highly. Obviously, they didn't think any other running back was worth the replacement of Swift, but look, I mean, the Ben Johnson offense and this offensive line, this monster of an offense they created, it's going to be hard not to succeed in it for any of these guys. And I think Swift is probably the one here. I know Kyle out of Rutgers there. He's getting a whole bunch of buzz in the fantasy community right now. But look, I just don't see it. I think Swift's going to end up being the guy there. And listen, in this offense, as long as he's getting touches, I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities to show who he is as a player.
Yeah, what's crazy is these last 2 years have been his most healthy seasons, on top of the fact of his last year in Detroit. 17 games played, 16 games played, back-to-back 300-plus fantasy point seasons. And this is the highest workload he's ever had. He had 253 carries last year on top of a 40-plus catch reception season. you were telling me 4 years ago, if I ever thought DeAndre Swift would be able to handle 290 touches in the league, I'd call you crazy. But here we are. He's handling the workload here in Chicago. I'm not saying that he's going to remain fully healthy. The only thing that I saw that scared me was just, I don't know if you blame it on offensive line play and solely offensive line play, or if it's just the amount of touches that he saw, but just the overall efficiency dropped. He dropped under 4 yards per carry last year, which is the only thing that I can say. But I don't see that happening again this year. I mean, we're talking about one of the bottom 5 offensive lines last season in pass protection and run blocking. I don't know. I believe that we're looking at a top 10 offensive line on paper.
On paper. Hey. But yeah, you have anybody else big before I get into our honorable mention here?
Yeah, I got one more guy I want to talk about, and it's another guy in the NFC North. It would be Aaron Jones, running back, 37 price tag. Just another guy. I mean, we saw how he finished his tenure in Green Bay. He had 300-yard games at the end of the year, and then he had 200-yard games in the playoffs. Last year, we only saw him with 200-yard games and one game over 90 yards. So I do believe that overall the efficiency had dropped a little bit. But at the same time, we're talking about a running back 16 finish for Aaron Jones here. And Aaron Jones, to me, still doesn't look like he lost a step at 30 years old. He's still playing stellar football. I know the addition of Jordan Mason does hurt, because I do believe that Jordan Mason is capable of carrying this team by himself as well. We saw that in San Fran last year. He instantly stepped into the McCaffrey role and produced multiple running back 1 weeks and just had a good year. He earned the little deal he got. Aaron Jones, the reason I love Aaron Jones so much is just his ability to be a dual threat back. And we talk about these running backs that have a nose for the end zone. That's Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has scored a lot in his NFL tenure. And he's still on the field. He's healthy. He's playing games. Why wouldn't I buy him at running back 37? That's a late second-round pick going into a third. I just don't think that math is mathing.
Mathing?
No.
All right. Don't have a whole lot to say about him. I'm not going to call this a buy. I'm going to call this a dart throw. But just the running back can get super cheap that I think is going to have just really low, probably worth nothing. Somebody just take a shot on. Javonte Williams in Dallas is semi-interesting for the value. I get it. He's been pretty bad as a prospect. But I didn't think a single thing of Rico Dowdle last year, and he rushed for 1,000 yards straight up. I don't think Rico Dowdle is a good running back, and he still rushed for over 1,000 in that offense without Dak Prescott for a few games. So, look, I think he survived the draft. The next competition is Jaden Blue, the rookie, which might take a little bit of time, which is just somebody that just throw a dart at for like a late third, and you can probably land Javonte Williams, roll a dice on him. I think it's worth a buy. He's 2 years out of that ACL injury. Running backs normally take about a year and a half to recover from that fully. So we'll see what happens. But I think he's got a little bit of an opportunity there in Dallas.
Yeah. It sucks that Javonte Williams never came what we thought he was going to be.
True.
That sucks.
This could be the year.
I don't have many fourth-year running back breakouts, but here we are. Last player who deserves some love, Mr. Pittsburgh himself, James Conner. So we're talking about a guy who has scored 4 straight years of over 300 fantasy points. We're talking about a catalyst in the Arizona offensive scheme. I like Trey Benson. I did like Trey Benson. And, year one was a injury mishap waiting to happen with just some overall just average play. It did not look good. Let's just say that. It looked like the NFL game was too fast for Trey Benson at times. But here we are. This is the first year where James Conner's played 16 games. And he finishes again as a running back 1. We got multiple years of 4 or 5 yards per carry. The explosiveness is there. This is a guy who just, again, has a knack for the end zone, who is a receiving threat. He's a true 3-down back. And At 30 years old, I don't know when Father Time's going to hit him either. But at the running back 35 price tag that's there, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah. All right, I think that'll wrap it up. There's a lot of old people we talked about tonight, but I mean, listen, these guys still have value if you're trying to win. If you're trying to win a league, everybody listed today, maybe outside the honorable mentions, is definitely worth a guy or a pick or a young guy that you don't 100% believe in to just take the dart throw and go after the vet that has guaranteed production. And I know that's kind of like frowned upon in dynasty leagues, but sometimes you got to push for the championship, man. That's the ultimate goal of all of this, right? So grab a player once in a while that might only have 1 or 2 years on your team, but can help you propel yourself to the top.
Yeah, and when you're getting of picks, so like obviously Josh Jacobs, you're paying more exponential draft capital than you would for James Conner and Aaron Jones. So like on the James Conner type player, you give up a late second round pick or whatever you have to give up. Does that really bother you?
Not really.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you willing to let James Conner die on your roster for that pick? Yeah, probably.
No.
That's what I'm doing.
No.
Because the running back, we told you this running back class was going to come in and take a lot of jobs. And this running back class already is going to leave its mark on the fantasy community. You got 5 guys inside the top 15. It's already there. They haven't even played a single snap. They haven't played a single preseason snap. We're just now getting into training camp. This class is already going to leave its mark. So with that being said, there's always value to be had. These veterans are going to rotate. They're going to go into a revolving door, and that's the revolving door we're playing right now. But they still have value. They still produce, and they still have the ability to win you championships.
Wrap her up, big dog.
Well, 2 shows in 1 week. What a hell of a week. So the third show, we're looking at possibly Saturday or Sunday. We're going to do our wide receiver buys. If you missed it, my Twitter has the video for the QBs. Again, if you like what you guys are seeing, content-wise, like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. We are pushing for that 500 subscriber mark. So much appreciated for all the support here. 145 people on back-to-back shows. It's a hell of a stretch. In May, we appreciate you guys. And overall, we're just hoping our content is helping you and, you're enjoying yourselves being here.
Yep. Before we head out, once again, everybody that showed up tonight, we appreciate you. Per usual, this is going up on the YouTube tonight. We're going to be live on Saturday or Sunday, whichever one it may be. Just keep in mind that'll be on Twitter that night, and then not on YouTube until next Wednesday. Our content creative manager is on vacation, so make sure if you want to catch us live. If not, and you miss a little bit of it, it'll be on YouTube on Wednesday or Thursday. Just wanted to give you a heads up.
Look at that fantasy trophy in the back. That's your that's your fantasy trophy. That's your league, right?
Yeah, baby.
Better than Goodell, baby. We appreciate everybody that showed up tonight, guys. On that note, we're going to wrap it up, and we are out.